account of Lycurgus, Plutarch establishes the legendary lawgiver of Sparta as being the second son of Eumenes and 11th in the line of descendants from the hero Heracles. In his prime, Lycurgus reigned over Sparta for a short time before passing the kingship to his nephew. After ascending the throne, Lycurgus traveled abroad to Crete and to Asia Minor, gathering ideas to establish a firm set of laws for Sparta. Years later, the Spartans petitioned for Lycurgus to return home. Welcomed by its citizens, Lycurgus began to establish a series of reforms which would later be called the Spartan Constitution. In his account, Plutarch details several of the new reforms delivered by Lycurgus to Sparta, including the Council of Elders, also known as the Ephors, the redistribution of state land for all its citizens, and the establishment of the common dining table, a piece of public furniture designed to symbolize the equality between the rich and the poor. Lycurgus also instituted the agoge, a Spartan education camp for boys, as well as several new traditions concerning marriage, childbirth, and funerals. With every reform, Lycurgus intended for each and every action to be done for the overall welfare of the state. After laying down this new constitution, Lycurgus made the Spartan citizens swear an oath to continue following the new laws until he returned from a trip to the oracle at Delphi. But Lycurgus intended for the oath to be binding, for after receiving the news from the oracle that the new laws were good in the eyes of the gods, Lycurgus chose to end his life through starvation, having fulfilled his life's purpose. For the next 400 years, the city-state of Sparta would rival in popularity and power to Athens, and her legend would peak in the 5th century BC during the wars with Persia and with the Delian League. And now we shall turn our attention to his Roman counterpart. Numa Pompilius was the youngest of 4 brothers from Pomponius, from the Sabine city of Cures. Before becoming the second king of Rome, Numa lived a life of strict moderation, refusing to indulge in earthly pleasures and devoting himself to the service of the gods. In 715 BC, Numa was selected by the Romans to become their new king after the death of Romulus. The Romans believed that having a king descendant from the Sabines would allow the two races to continue their mutual alliance. Initially refusing the offer, Numa ultimately accepted under the condition that Jupiter declared that his nomination was good and right. Once he was king, Numa disbanded the personal bodyguard of Romulus, called the Celeres, in his attempt to restore a sense of loyalty between the people and the kingship. Plutarch details Numa's installment of several sets of religious personnel in his strategy to pacify the warlike nature of the Romans, including the pontifices, the Vestal Virgins, the Fessiales, and the Salii priests. This instilling of religious discipline allowed the Romans to accept and support Numa in his endeavors. He also established the original boundaries of Rome, divided the population by their respective trades, and reorganized the Roman calendar. During Numa's reign of about 43 years, there was no instance of war between Rome and her neighbors. Even upon his death in 672 BC, the neighboring towns gathered to celebrate the life of Numa alongside the Romans and the Sabines. At his request, Numa was buried on the Janiculum Hill, along with a collection of philosophical and sacred books. In the following centuries, Numa's peaceful reign was separated by the warlike and unfavorable reigns of the next 5 kings of Rome. By 509 BC, the Romans were finished with kings and overthrew the reigning Tarquin dynasty to establish a new republican government. And this new republican government would last until the time of Octavian in 27 BC, where he oversaw the transition of the republic into an empire.